Hi, it's Erik Paulsen, and welcome to our video conversation this week. Of course, we're remembering 9/11, which happened 13 years ago, remembering the victims, the families, and of course the fallen heroes. And there was a special congressional ceremony this week giving gold medals to those fallen heroes in the 3 instances where the terrorist attacks took place, whether it was at Ground Zero, out in the fields of Pennsylvania, or of course at the Pentagon. And we certainly have those folks in our hearts and prayers as we go forward. We also want to make sure we get to our questions for the week. I actually got a lot of good questions, and the first comes in from Linda in Medina, and she emailed in. She says, "Dear Congressman Paulsen, as someone who has struggled with misdiagnosed Lyme disease for over 30 years and was near death a few years ago from it, please improve our ability to become diagnosed and properly treated. Help is desperately needed. Diseases like this can typically cause financial ruin. Please do everything to help victims of Lyme disease." You know what, Linda? You're absolutely correct. In fact, Minnesota as a state has the highest levels of incidence of Lyme disease in the country. And the good news is, this week in the House, we actually passed legislation overwhelmingly with bipartisan support, directing the National Institutes of Health as well as the CDC to devote more time and attention and scientific research into those diseases that are borne by ticks and mosquitoes, including Lyme's disease, of course. I also received an email from Robert in Bloomington. He says, "Dear Erik, I hope you'll continue the fight for the rest of us vets. A total makeover of the VA needs to begin, and small steps are what should take place. I serve my country with honor and with pride, and would like those in Washington, D.C. to support us and have our backs, much as we had the backs of every American. You've done a great job for the district and state. Now I hope you can do the same for us veterans and get America back to where we once were and should be. Sincerely, Robert." First of all, Robert, thank you for those comments, and thank you for your service. The problems at the VA continue to be a top concern, not only of myself, but for many of my colleagues, because we passed bipartisan reform legislation recently that was signed into law by the President, making sure the VA will have the tools to ensure that the promises that were made for our veterans as they return from overseas and that their families get the proper and attention for health care that they need and deserve and were promised. I'm particularly disturbed about recent allegations, even in the Minneapolis VA, about falsifying documents and wait times. I've sent a letter recently to the Secretary of the VA asking that those instances be investigated and that are followed up on. We need to make sure that our veterans receive their health care and the attention that they were promised and that they deserve, and I will continue to make sure that I'm on top of that. Thanks for sharing your thoughts and your concerns and your questions. Do not hesitate to reach out with your thoughts, ideas on Facebook, on Twitter, or of course at the website at paulsen.house.gov.